I suppose I'm allowed to sit like this, huh?
Press play, or press the red button on that. Okay. Hi, Grandma.
Hi, Lily.
How's it going?
Oh, it's a hot day out today.
It is, isn't it?
I'm especially noticing that because I just got back in, so. Today is May 28th, 2020, and my name is Leora Marie Isbell. Nay Runstrom, then I was Black for my children whose last names are Black, and that's my total history. So I was born in 1937, June 9th, making me currently, in whatever year this is, 82 years old. Well, one of my earliest memories I remember was I lived in a little small house that had a little porch that went down. To me, it seemed about that high, but it probably was not that high to step down to the path. The path went on a slope uphill, had 2 stone steps, a picket fence, and I remember pulling my way up that and looking at things through the picket fence. And as long as we're on climbing, I have a horror story for my dad. He was building a pergola in the backyard. There's sort of the patio with laughing, a white wisteria hanging over it, that kind of thing. And the laughing is, like this going up with probably this kind of spacing. And I know I was not 2 yet. And my dad was up repairing the roof on the top, and I wanted to watch Daddy. And I think those laths are only tacked together every few slats. And here I go, up to the top, over the top, freaking Dad out. It's like, here's the little squirt. How do we get her down now? Because he came up on the ladder. Now, can he still carry me down the ladder? I was probably under 2. I think I still had diapers, and it was summer. Well, maybe that was the summer I turned to. Yeah, it was in the laughing, it looked like a ladder to me, all the way to the top. And scared the bejeebers out of him, and I got a big scolding, of course. My dad had his scolding face you may see in many photographs of him, as he's telling the children to shh, pay attention. He's got a frown. I can start remembering more things when the war was on, because my mom was in Marine colors. I wanted it to be Army colors, but that's what she had. So I had my little uniform and a little helmet, and I had a rifle. And I dug my cockpit in the backyard, which was all probably this deep. We had a lot next door. There was dirt. So this deep. And the girl across the street stole my rifle and my father's wallet, which was, his used wallet that he'd given me. And I don't remember if I ever got the gun back. I think probably not. I found one of my friend's mothers let me look at. I found a gun in her bottom drawer, but it wasn't mine because mine was double shotgun.
It was a real gun?
No,
oh.
A toy gun. I'm 6 years old. Everybody just kind of was on their own to do whatever they did, and depending on the age I was. When I got big enough, I had some roller skates, and we had a really small. My small front porch, it was probably 6 or 8 feet wide. I'd go back and forth, and I think there was a little bit of sidewalk across the street. So I got my own bicycle for Christmas when I was 11, and I described to you my 8-foot wide porch. I got a full-size bicycle, a Schwinn, girl's bike, and it wasn't big enough to ride on, so I stand on it, back to the far edge, pedal 2 pedals across, back, 2 pedals across. And that was before I was allowed to go on the street, because it was trouble when you went out on the street. Some of the neighborhood girls, or maybe the boys, like I say, Altadena is uphill, downhill, 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 downhill. And I think we rode all the way to the Rose Bowl downhill. And then there's this whole issue of going uphill to get home. And we couldn't ride uphill because it was too steep. So I remember pushing the pink sky of sunset going down, and my parents finally finding me trudging up the last street, and boy was I in trouble. Mom was a mama, and I think she probably did some, I don't know if she did some, my Aunt Frankie did Red Cross volunteer stuff, or entertain the troops kind of things. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and my dad, when he worked in the war industry, he was down at first in Long Beach, and then he got a job at Caltech doing some kind of inspection stuff, and it was also part of the war effort. And they did testing there that must have been rocket testing, because we'd hear this loud, really loud noise that would then, I think, break the sound barrier somehow, and bang. So you knew, you were aware of that. We in the war we had black tar paper in our windows so that we can close them at night and no light would go out to be seen from overhead. My grandpa was an air raid warden, and we have a picture of him still. It's so funny. Did I tell you this story already for this? He had this friend, Tilly, who was a family friend, big heavy lady. So here's the picture. Tilly in her black dress, stricken by the war somehow, and Grandpa in his helmet, which was one of those kind of flat helmets with the flat rims. It wasn't like the war, not like the soldier helmets. And his gas mask, and his band around him that shows he's an air raid warden or whatever it is. And the possibility of being bombed by the Japanese was the worry. So, and there would be Japanese submarines come off the coast. My father's father was tall, at least as tall as my father, a Swede. He had blonde hair, horn-rimmed glasses. He was a carpenter. And they lived out of town let's say they lived in the town they lived in. It was not where we lived. So it was go visit Grandma and Grandpa out in San Bernardino. And then my other grandpa, Grandpa Mosier, my mother's father, was a shorter man, and he was a real estate man, and I guess he had black hair when he was young. I've seen pictures of him with black hair, but he had gray hair once I knew him. Straight hair over to the side. I think he may have had a mustache. And they didn't live very far from us. My babysitter was my grandma when we needed a babysitter. So I stayed at their house whenever. I remember being wrapped up in my blankie to be carried in the car on the way, and I was always car sick, and everything seemed a million miles away because it felt so terrible to me. One of my favorite trips that had to be done over was my other grandma lived out in Santa Paula. I'm not sure where Santa Paula really is. out there to the west from Altadena where I lived. About 100 miles. Maybe not that far, but it just felt like that to me. And we were on our way one nighttime in the brown Dodgy, as we called it. It was old Dodge car, which is one of those square jabberdoos. And we got a flat tire in somewhere that seemed a long ways away from home, and we had to go home. I think Grandpa came and picked us up and took us home. And of course, I'm car sick this whole time, and so I'm having to double this trip to get there. And Grandpa picks us up, brought us home next morning, took us to get the car that was fixed, and on up to Santa Paula, where the paternal grandparents lived in Santa Paula. I think they lived in an orange grove, because I remember orange trees around. Grandma Bertha? My grandma?
Yeah.
They lived in San Bernardino. They moved to more than one place, but they had sort of a farmy, ranchy place on a regular type lot, but they had chickens in the backyard and all that kind of thing. And we would go out there on that long ride that made me car sick, and on a weekend, and have chicken dinner. And so I was given a little chicken, of my very own little chicken. It was a little rooster, and he grew up into a big, beautiful rooster. And then they says, well, he has to go back and live with Grandma. Why? Grandma was going to eat the chicken, so I would never eat chicken there at her house again in case it was my roosty. And that just was a betrayal. I'll tell you, I'm still upset about that.
So they ate the rooster?
Well, they had, the chickens they had were for eating and for eggs, and roosters don't lay eggs, so you get to eat them. But I never trusted. They said, no, this is not your chicken, and I didn't trust them. I wouldn't eat chicken anymore. So that was that. Junior high was your first experience with separate classes for each subject and change in between. I think we had 6 periods a day and one of gym. Since I had serious pneumonia when I was 7, I was treated as very fragile in my health for the years after that. So when I had gym, I had rest. Or corrective gym, which involves something energetic like walking on a slant board like this so your pronated ankles would stop pronating. So that was not too exciting. That is, though, the period in which I met Little Lepesky and that crew and the Science Fiction Club, that was kind of a life-altering thing from my prior course.
What was the Science Fiction Club?
Science Fiction Club?
Uh-huh.
People who read science fiction.
But why do you feel like it was life-altering?
Because of the people I met there. They're like Lynn is still in my life, and Doug, who I've been in love with since 6th grade, but he's gay, so that didn't go very far. But I'm still in touch with him. He lives in Brooklyn.
Huh.
So those were influencer people in my life, and that club was influencing. I read a whole lot of science fiction for many years, and still, I don't buy it like I used to, but sometimes I pick one up to read.
What's your favorite genre of science fiction? Space or
Yeah, probably. And I was always convinced that in I'm not sure how late, whether it was still in the war years or after the war years, that one of my father's friends wasn't working on some of the precursor stuff to space. He it was all secret. He wasn't allowed to say. But I was reading science fiction, and are you doing such and such? I can't tell you what I'm doing. So that's, I've always been hooked on that. I didn't stay to the same degree as I was then, because that would be the only thing I read. But I mostly read science fiction into my adulthood, and I still occasionally buy one. And we didn't have our takeoff yet today. That's Saturday or Sunday now, we're not sure. Still followed that along.
But there's a full moon rising. Let's go dancing in the light. We know where the music's playing. Let's go out and feel the night. Because I'm still in love with you. I wanna see you dance again. Because I'm still in love with you. On this harvest moon.
What?
Where did I leave off? I was in storm drains. I did go in the storm drains a little bit, but not too much, because they really scared me.
Do you ever see the movie It? Stephen King. It's about a clown that lives in the storm.
Oh, I don't even read Stephen King now. I have a friend whose favorite is Stephen King, and she knows I don't like the scary stuff. So if I hear a movie's coming out, Nina Shortridge, if it's coming out, I say, Nina, should I go to this or not? And she advises me whether I should or I shouldn't.
What did you used to do for fun when you were growing up?